Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the 18th of February, and we are looking at a combined middle school and elementary assessment coordinator meeting. We've got mostly topics that are overlapping, so that is one of the reasons why we're doing this. I am going to share the slide deck with you, and we'll go from there. So thank you for your patience as we get rolling here. All right. So welcome, everyone. I appreciate it. Happy cold day. We are going to cover a couple different things. Number one is we're going to just review, again, some of the resources that you have available to you because we're working hard to keep them updated. But especially we want to just touch base. I know it seems like, wait a minute, we just got done with screeners. There are a couple pieces I just want to put out there as far as I want to plant some seeds, make sure that you're thinking about the screeners that are coming up in the spring, because it does make a difference in the elementary world. Most of our time, however, today is going to be spent talking about the forward exam, things that you need to know, things that are coming up, and we'll talk about things such as opt-outs, and then there will be time at the end if you have any questions. So appreciate everybody being here. And again, just want to let you know the team that's here supporting you, myself, Sarah Wallner, and Jamie Anderson in our department, Stacy Will, who is in student services, and Ben Kolash in bilingual education. So together we are able to address almost every single one of your questions. Maybe not today, but we'll find the answer. So we're here to support you as we roll through this assessment season. I know we're just catching our breath, but we're already going to be talking just briefly about spring screening. Thank you for all the hard work that everybody put into winter. I know that at every level there were some questions, some concerns, whether it was, wait a minute, this is new that the middle of the year screener was required, or like in the lower elementary, it was, hey, what is this thing called AIMSweb Plus, and how does it all work? So I appreciate everything that everybody has done to get to us where we're at today. Couple things. First of all, for elementary, and I know you probably don't want to hear this, but the AIMSweb Plus spring window is shorter than the winter window, and it starts earlier. It opens on the 17th of March and closes on the 18th of April. So in essence, let me just tell you why this is all the way it is because the Act 20 legislation says that you need to give your last screener of the year for, again, we're talking about 4K through grades 3 now. You need to give the last screener, the latest date has to be 45 days prior to the last day of school. So if you take the last day of school in June and count backwards, that's the end date of our window. So April 18th. And the state has said, we will allow you to do this starting on March 17th, which if everybody is really thinking about all the things that are happening, March 17th is the opening day of quite a few assessments in this district and in the state. So I just want to give you heads up because I know that's going to be scheduling issues. The AIMSweb Plus spring window is shorter than forward. So especially it's overlapping with our third graders. So you may want to do those friends early on in the process and then hold off till later in the window for forward. So just some thoughts. I did want to raise that issue. For everyone else, grades 4 and 5 and all the mathematics in elementary, FAF Bridge is the window opens later, so in May. So you don't have to do all the screening at that early window. It's the AIMSweb Plus. So iReady, Achieve, and FastBridge for math, as well as for the grades 4 and 5 ELA. open on May 5th and close on the 23rd of May. So in some sense, some of you can breathe a sigh of relief. It's like, oh my gosh, he's already talking about spring screeners. So, but the important stuff that we're here to talk about today is the forward exam. And so let's just review it. And again, we're going to get into new material. But again, I constantly come back to this because it does make a difference. So it is a state mandated exam, 3 through 8. And its whole purpose, even though it's been getting a whole lot of play in the press about it's not measuring standards, it's not my argument. We'll let other people make that argument. But it is per state statute, it does measure the state standards. We also have it's data that's used for the federal accountability. And so all students are expected to actually take the forward exam, or if they have an IEP that they are being taught to different standards, which are called the essential elements, then they are able to take the dynamic learning maps. The only exemption does not come per IEP. So if an IEP says exempted, that doesn't work. The only exemptions from the state's perspective are for students who are newly arrived in the United States. And here is what the requirement is. We have to check the boxes. It's a both and. They have to be newly arrived in the United States within the last 12 months, and they have to be a DPI language level of a 1 or a 2. What that does is it gives them the exemption for English language arts only. They're still required to take the mathematics portion of the test. So that's a little bit of the background of the forward exam. So let's move to the next one. Again, it is computer-based. It's not adaptive. Yes, thank you, Sarah. It is a one-time exemption. So even if they are for instance, there's a time differential we can play around with, and we could actually say, well, they can be exempted 2 years in a row. No, it's a one-time exemption. So we're going to have the students use Chromebooks, and this is an assessment that has a platform that you will have access to. You don't have access to it quite yet. If you did, there's nothing there for you. So beginning on March 3rd is when things will start opening. You'll have access probably on the 3rd or the 4th. And we will, in our next meeting, which comes before the window opens, we'll go through and we'll actually use the platform. We'll take a tour of it. So I just wanted to point that out. In grades 4 and 8, not only do you have the English language arts and mathematics sections, you also have the science and social studies. All right, the forward exam has got to be in person, and this plays out with those students who are our friends at Madison Promise. We'll talk about that towards the end of this, but yes, they are still our students. They are your students enrolled in your school. So the window itself, March 17th through April 25th. Of this year. And note again that right in the middle of that, actually week 2 of the assessment window is our spring break in MMSD. So students cannot use ClassLink to get in. They will need to have tickets. We'll go through what the student login looks like next month. They will have an app on their Chromebooks in which they will just click on the app and then put in the username and password. You will get the tickets somewhere around the second week in March, and we'll get there. We're trying to get those to you as quickly as possible. What happens is once we put all this data in, the whole platform shuts down and doesn't reopen until the 3rd of March. So we can't get the tickets to you any sooner. And then we have to go through a process and print all the tickets. So it takes a little bit to do that. The test sessions are not timed. So the times that we're going to talk about just briefly are all approximate. They are what the DPI has said. This is what we've seen in thousands of tests. This is the time set that works. There are 3 sessions of English language arts. Writing should be the first that's done. Let me just, sorry. Writing should be the first that's done. We'll talk a little bit more detail about the 3 different sections in English language arts. Elementary school, you will continue with 2 sessions of mathematics, and in middle school, yes, there is 3. The amount of time has not changed. They have not added additional time in middle school. The sections, instead of being 2 longer sessions, they've been broken up into 3 shorter sessions. There's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So when you're planning, there are shorter sessions in middle school for mathematics. 3 sessions of science, as well as 2 of social studies for our 4th and 8th grade friends. So that's kind of what it looks like. Now, you can see the overall time at the top of this. And then you see the ELA portion at the bottom. Again, there is there are 2 writing sections which we'll preview in just a minute. And the reading section is the reading comprehension section. So the writing and the reading need to be done first. DPI is asking that you do session 2 and 3 first. It is not a mandate, but they would like you to do ELA prior to the rest of the assessment. All right, mathematics, here's again, you can see where the difference is with time. You can see the elementary does not have a 3rd session. And if you add up the time, this is the same amount of time that the middle schools had last year for these, and all prior years, they've just shifted this around. In fact, session 1 for 8th graders is only 25 minutes. So it's a pretty short session. The time has not changed for science or mathematics this year. Now, a couple things that I want to just make you aware of. Once again, this year, all students will have text-to-speech in English available to them. So keep in mind when you're planning, that means that you will probably want to have headsets available. Earbuds are just fine. If students do not have accommodations, then we would need to make sure that somebody just needs to have, the students just need to have headsets on, even if they're just playing around with it. Because imagine a room full of students who are clicking play at different times. We'll go in and actually listen to this in a moment. But this is what it looks like at the top of the page for our students. Now, English Language Arts, Session 1, Reading. It is reading comprehension. It is the longest section, regardless of what grade you're in. So there will be reading. Keep in mind that even though it doesn't look like it, they're at the bottom of this page. It says 1 out of 5. This, you can turn it like a page and read pages continuously for the students can do that. There is no text-to-speech option available for this because it is an English language reading comprehension assessment. And so session 1 does not have text-to-speech available for students. It does have it available for the instructions, but other than that, it will not read the reading passages to the student. Now, the 2nd and 3rd sessions of the test are writing based. And so you'll see that the 2nd section has a short passage in which the student is expected to respond to what they read in the passage. So it is more formal. The expectation is that would be about 1 paragraph. Now, how long is 1 paragraph? That varies based on grade level. And so you will have, one grade might have a paragraph meaning 3 or 4 sentences. Whereas an 8th grader, I would expect a bit more from them. In this particular session, text-to-speech will read everything, including the passage, because it is not, I repeat, it is not a reading comprehension assignment. So they can, so Katie's question, do you have to finish the writing sessions in one day? DPI would prefer that all of the writing portions get done first. So if you do session 2 and that's the end of it for the day, you can come back and do session 3. They are not linked. One does not influence the other. So you can do them separately, but they would like to have them done first out of the block. One of the reasons why is for scoring purposes. This is one of the few sections that requires a human reader. They are moving towards AI, but that is not there yet. So they want this section done. It also means that the students typically are fresher. They're not exhausted by this whole process of testing. So the direct answer to your question, Katie, is they do not have to be started and finished on one day. So, all right, the next section is a shorter response, a shorter section, in that it is simply, you've got a response, they ask a question, and then you write the response. Again, the expectation is 1 paragraph. So in this particular case, it's write 1 paragraph explaining what you would include on the school poster to describe your school. Be sure to introduce your topic, use descriptive words and details, and include a concluding sentence. So again, it's responding to a quick prompt and making sure that you are doing well with the writing of a paragraph. Now, here's something I've added to the slide deck. Each grade level has rubrics for the different writing components. So they're listed here. You can click on them. They will take you to a PDF on the DPI website. And for each grade level, it lays out the rubric. So what are they looking for in this particular kind of writing? They're not huge rubrics. They are pretty short and to the point. And so you'll, if you use these, not only will teachers better understand what it is that's being asked of students, but the students will better understand what's being asked for them on the assessment. So that's just something that's available. I wanted to make sure that I put that out there so that everyone had a chance to use that if they so choose.
Hey, Tim, can I go back to Katie's question from before?
Yes.
So
Please.
I did find on DPI's website that right. So the question is, does the short write need to be completed in 1 sitting? And the answer is yes, unless there are extenuating circumstances such as a fire drill, illness, need for extra time. At the end of any test sitting, students who have not completed and submitted their test session are instructed to go back and make any changes or complete flag questions at that time, as they will not be permitted to do so when they log back in to complete the test session. The test will functionally let them go back in, but it will open to the last unfinished question when the student logs in. So in short, best practice is to complete it in 1 sitting, unless there are extenuating circumstances.
Right. So again, so each of the sessions, thank you, Sarah. Each of the sessions you need to complete, but I don't think that says that you have to do the session 2 and session 2 on the same day.
Correct.
Okay. And if something comes up with the reading comprehension, for instance, it's not going to allow you to go back. If you log in the next day, you won't be able to go back and do any of the questions. So if you start a session, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 in English language arts, you need to complete that. And so please make sure that you allow that time for that. So hopefully that helps clarify things a little. And again, if you have questions, you can always ask them at the end or email us and we'll be happy to dig in if it doesn't make any sense. Okay, and I have no idea. There we go. So mathematics, whether it's 2 sessions or 3, the toolbar that goes across the top will have a built-in calculator, 4-function calculator, when it is appropriate to be used. If there is no calculator, and that is this particular icon, that's this one, if there's no calculator there, then it is not appropriate. And again, keep in mind that it is very rare that even a student with accommodations should be allowed to have a physical calculator. We're working on getting a better understanding of that across the district. If it's in place right now, I'm not going to be chasing anybody down, but keep in mind, the concept is that they have a calculator. It's a 4-function calculator on the screen. So, in fact, what I want to do right now is just go in and I'm going to actually go to the website and I'm going to share the practice test. So this is what's linked on that last page. I'm going to open grade 6 mathematics, and we're just going to go into the practice test. Now, this is available to anyone. Staff can take this. I've worked with one of the middle schools, and they had staff members who actually went and took a portion of this test, whether it's the ELA or the mathematics or science or social studies. It's open to students to try and play around with. In fact, I would suggest that grade 3 students who've never done the forward might benefit from just playing around with it for 10, 15 minutes to see what it's like. It's also available for families. So if a family wanted to log in, you can certainly share the URL with them on this practice test and allow them to see what it is that their students are going to be doing. So I'm clicking on the practice test, and this will look very similar to what is available on for all the students. Again, the language portion is up at the top, controls the text to speech. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to click on session 1 for 6th grade mathematics. Now, those of you who've been through this know that there are several screens that go through the navigation portion. The first session, even if it's 8th graders and they've taken this forever, I would spend a little bit of time going over it as things may have changed or been moved around. Otherwise, you don't have to do this on every single session, even though it will be there, because they're not mandating the order of the sessions. So just keep in mind that there are a number of screens. If you are doing stack translations in Spanish, please note that the first one will be in Spanish. The second one will be repeated, the same page, same information in English. So instead of 8 different pages, there will be 16 different pages that students have to scroll through. Just want you to keep that in mind. I'm going to begin the test. And what I want to point out, first of all, here is that there is not a tool. There's not a calculator tool. So on this particular problem, it is not appropriate to use a calculator. However, I also want to point out the text to speech. I'm just going to, let's go back here. I'm going to click on the center button, because what this does is show starting points of the speech process. So if I can go over to, I can click here. If this is the only section that I want, I can click on this.
Which ratio can be multiplied
and
by the
if my
result of
audio
Talia's
is playing,
expression to determine the number of seconds in 4 hours? A. The fraction,
So,
1 minute over 60 seconds.
wait a minute. Okay. It's never been one of my joyful things to play around the text to speech. So it does play out starting points again. I'm going to make sure it's stopped. It does play out starting points, so you don't have to listen to it all. If you just Are there words or sections that you want? You can go ahead and click on just those sections. Also, something for you, for families, for staff, for students. If you want to learn more about this item, there's a pop-up window that tells you what standard it is aligned to, the depth of knowledge, what is the correct answer, and why it is the correct answer, as well as why these are incorrect answers. So just know that that's there. It is not available on the regular forward test. So
Go to question.
practice test is here. It's available. I'm going to flip back to the PowerPoint. So again, here's another link to the practice test. You can use whatever grade level works best for you. Just a reminder, thank you to everyone who's got their information in, and Stack Translations are one of those supports for our English learners. Stack Translations are Spanish over English. And then there's a choice, there's an option for text to speech if you want that text to speech in either English or Spanish. It cannot be both. There has to be a choice. We cannot intuit what it is that the student should or would be best for the student. Plus, once you get started on that session, we can't change it. So please, if there are situations that are questionable, please think about it. Let us know as soon as possible. And finally, I think this is the final slide on the forward exam. Creating a schedule. There are sample schedules on our website as well as DPI's. They have been created by DPI. So you can go in and take a look at what might a 3-day schedule for testing look like. What might a 5 or 11-day schedule look like? Whatever it is, it has to work for your school. And keeping in mind all the other pieces that are going on at the same time, especially at the elementary. We've got the, again, Act 20 assessments going on, as well as we have forward and dynamic learning maps for everyone in each of the buildings. So the schedule has to work. It's best done when in conjunction with your teacher teams as well as the principal. And please make sure to build in time for makeup tests. If you know if a student is going to be gone, instead of 1 week at spring break, they're going to be gone 3, you may want to consider having that student go early and get the majority of the test done, if not all of it. I would like a copy of your schedule. So if you can send me a copy, it's not because Tim is going to come out and check on you. It's because I want to be able to support by providing this to tech services so they can know where it would be best to have to place their staff on specific days. If a building, a microtech is in your building on Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday, and you're starting testing on Tuesday, schedules may have to be juggled. So I would really appreciate having your schedule set up. Also, it really helps answer questions. If somebody in central office says, how are they doing on this particular test at this school? I can say, well, they haven't really started yet. So I can know that, and I can kind of troubleshoot that ahead of time. Finally, I had a great question the other day. Yes, Tony, I'll stop here. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just wondering, did you mention, when do you want those schedules by? Sorry if you said it already.
No, I didn't say when. I would prefer to have that just when, by the time testing starts. I mean, if you're going to be starting day 1, I would like it a week ahead of time so I can work with tech services to position people in the right place. And they may be overlapping in several buildings. It's not going to be first come, first serve. It will simply be, we'll work through what's best, what works best for each of the buildings. So yeah, if you could get that to me by, the end of the first week of March. When you get the tickets, I hope to have your schedules by that time. How's that? Yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I did not mean to hit that button. I was just going to say thank you.
Oh, okay, no problem. Question came up recently about, so what are the standards that are actually being assessed by the forward exam? Great question, and I don't think it's been asked enough as it should be. So there are documents that DPI puts out there every year or whenever there's a change in the test. They're called test blueprints. And in the blueprints, each content area has a list of which standards are going to be assessed. And if I remember correctly, it might even say what types of questions would be appropriate for that particular standard. So you may want to just take a look at it. Not saying that we should be, changing up anything, but if you've got an area of focus, let's just say in mathematics, and your students, if you've done the analysis and your students always struggle in that area, it may be because you haven't taught it yet. And so this will tell you which standards are being assessed by the forward exam. And this has been updated last year when they redid the exam. So it should be in place for a few years, as far as I know. All right. Now, professional development, getting your staff ready. So we've got a schedule. One of the things that is required is that everyone who proctors the forward exam actually knows something about the exam and how to do that. DPI changes this process every year. What you're seeing is that spring 25 version of what the video is. They've cut 10 minutes off from last year. So you'll see that I have linked, first of all, DPI's training page. So all the different training videos are on this particular page. Persons who are what I would call proctors, they refer to as test administrators. So the professional development for that is a video, and that takes approximately 30 minutes to review. There are some PowerPoint slide deck slides you can print out, and I've linked the version that is 6 slides per page. On the DPI training site, you will be able to find other versions of it. So if you want 1, 2, or 3 to a page, you could do that as well. But it takes about 30 minutes, and all proctors need to take that particular professional development. Test security is also a big deal. I can't tell you how important it is that we understand what can and can't be done. Believe it or not, DPI monitors social media, and I have gotten calls from them whenever something is posted by a student that is actually breaking confidentiality. So, number one, no cell phones, electronics, etc. But here's the security training video. It is about 6.5 minutes. Everyone needs to take a look at this, including you. Once that's done, there are confidentiality agreements that need to be signed by people who are test administrators, in other words, room proctors. That is, we'll link that in the notes if it's not already there. I can send it out. It will also be on the website, the forward website in the district. But once they sign that, and if they want the security manual, it's pretty long, but it's still available. It is available on our website in a PDF format. If they'd like that, they can certainly have that. Once they sign off on it, they give that to you. So you need to be responsible to know that everyone in your building has said, yes, I will keep this secure test material secure. I need to have from you one that is designed specifically, the confidentiality agreement that's designed specifically for building level assessment coordinators. You send yours to me. I don't want all your staff's documentation. In turn, I sign a confidentiality agreement that I send on to DPI saying, we are following all the protocols and I am responsible for all the assessment that goes on in this district. So it's kind of a pyramid effect. From one level to the next, only one sheet of paper goes up, and that is from you to me. Then I'll send mine on to DPI. So a couple other things we've got available linked here are signs that should be on the door. No electronics. That does include things like cell phones. It should include smartwatches. I'm not going to be a real stickler about that. As long as if you see if a staff member sees a student working on their smartwatch, then that's a problem. So earbuds are good to be used for the test because, again, we probably don't have enough headphones for that. But as long as the wireless portion is turned off from their cell phone, that is the critical point. You will be receiving shortly, or approximately when you get the tickets, we're working with printing services to get them out, 5 test administration manuals. Inside a test administration manual is all the information that a test administrator or a proctor needs to know, including the script for each one of the portions of the test. So that is found inside the test administration manual. If you need more than 5, which you probably will, you may want to just take one of those and take out the portions that are really specific to, if somebody is giving just the mathematics portion, then you can give them that portion. If you need more copies, unfortunately, you'll have to make more copies, as I can only print and get you 5. We're getting down to the end with the forward stuff. Again, Chromebooks. We talked about this with access testing. Now we're talking about it in a wider audience. So if students have not restarted their Chromebook recently, they do need to do that. And that's not just simply closing the cover and then opening it back up again. It does mean clicking on that power and button and restarting the whole machine. And in that process, it updates the Chrome operating system. So that's where that happens. It does need to be done on a regular basis. So if they haven't done it or it's been a while, it's always good practice to get them to restart their machines. And it does save you some time on that first morning when it's like, okay, we're going to get started testing, and suddenly half the students can't log in because they're not running the right operating system. So just a little heads up, past experience. Madison Promise. So again, remember, these are our students. They are just in a different setting. And so they can be tested. They should be tested. It should be done in person. It should be done in conjunction with the Madison Promise staff. And we need to find a place for them, whether the student comes into your building, whether there's a place mutually agreed upon. They cannot do this virtually. They cannot do it at home. Even if a parent is there or a family member is there to proctor, that cannot happen. So please reach out to those students and saying, we want to set up a time to go through and give you the forward exam. If you're having a difficult time connecting with the person, with the student and the family, please connect with Andrew Stendahl. I saw him on here earlier. Thanks, Andrew, for all your work. But he can connect you with the family, or he can work his side of it so that we're looking at making sure that the family does know this is really important. Right. That's a lot of stuff. Next time, what we'll do is we'll go through literally the nuts and bolts of how to do certain steps, how to print tickets, how students log in, those kinds of things. So we'll make sure that we get that. Lee's question: how do we know if you have Madison Promise students? No, thank you.
So I
Yep. And I can
believe,
also, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I believe that Amanda, so let me get this out of my face. I believe Amanda has marked them off-site as a secondary enrollment with us at Madison Promise. Their IC schedule should say they're with us. But I can't see anybody else in IC that's not with me. So I don't actually know what your view is.
And what I was going to say is I did put in the EL doc, whether a student is at Madison Promise, which is only a small subset of students. But I can send a list to the sites that I know we don't have a lot of elementary or middle at this point. So I could just send a list directly to the schools saying, here's who I've got today that I have noted as Madison Promise.
And Sarah,
Great.
if you want me to share my master spreadsheet with you, I mean, there's some notes on there, parent contact info and stuff. I don't want it widely shared in the district, but if it's helpful for me to share it with you, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
Yep.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it because again, it's really important that we have all students have the opportunity to show what they know and what they are able to do. And speaking of that, let's just jump into the whole concept of opting out. So the expectation from both DPI, the state, and the feds, the ESSA reports are that 95% of each and every student demographic and service provision group is participating in the test so that they complete the test. Now, the state also has in statute, as well as the Board of Education policy, that we allow families to opt students out of state mandated tests. The process is this: if a family chooses that that's what is best for their child, they need to write, whether it's an email or a note of some sort. It needs to be in writing. It can't be calling up and saying, hey, I'd like my child opted out. It needs to be in writing, and then if it's given to you or the principal or a staff member, it needs to find its way to the office. It would be great if you had an option, if you knew who was going to be opted out in your building, and then it needs to be shared with myself and Jamie Anderson. So if it's an email, just forward the email and say, here's an opt-out from so-and-so. If it's a handwritten note, please scan it and send it to us. We collect out all that information, and that is something that as a district we look at. It's also something that I need to report to the school board on an annual basis. So the note needs to be specific. It can't just say, out of all standardized tests, I'm going to opt my child. So if a family does that, please just kindly request that they say what specific test. If they say the state test, then you can tell them the name of that because they may or may not know it. So now, here are some of the things that you need to know about opting out. For the state report, this is the accountability end of it. For the state report cards, there's no penalty that is imposed for a 95% or lower participation. And again, we're talking about the student demographic groups as well as service provision, which means students with IEPs, English learners, and economically disadvantaged students. So that's what's called service provision. So 95% of each and every one of those categories needs to be tested. So the state, there's no penalty. However, those of you who have been who are in schools where there are student populations that are identified as TSI or ATSI, the federal or ESSA accountability identifications, that's because there is a penalty. If you don't hit that 95% participation rate, what happens is they add in zeros to the achievement portion as well as the growth portion, and you end up we know what happens when you start adding zeros in to averages. It drops pretty significantly. So if we can avoid that, because the whole concept is we want all students to be able to show what it is that they know they're able to do. So again, please know that it is permissible and there's a process for that, but it's also something that we would encourage families not to do. So we're just about done. As always, if you have questions, you can connect with any of us via phone or email. So we've got again, the assessment team here, as well as our supporting team members, if you have specific questions for them. So I'm going to stop sharing and come back, and going to stop recording and leave time for questions.